Welcome back. Hi, I'm Tony. Welcome to this session of Restore and Reconnect, which we're going to do a little bit of somatic work, which is yoga is also a somatic practice. So it's very similar, there's just some slightly different emphasis. So if you find you like this, I wanted to throw in a little alternative. We're going to start on our backs, where we often do, coming into our relationship with gravity. Noticing the feel of the bones on the floor coming down to a comfortable position. I have my feet on the floor, knees bent. If you wanted to begin, you're welcome to let your legs go long if that felt like it might be more comfortable to begin. We're just going to take a few moments to notice the air on our skin, the where clothing is touching, the quality of pressure under our bodies, the way the floor is coming up underneath to support us. What does that feel like? How much fidgeting do we need to do to land, to settle in? How's our breathing? What do you need to do to land? So that might be, as I just did, a little audible exhale. Maybe it's just fidgeting a little bit more. Maybe it's really noticing the way in which your body is in touch with the floor, in contact. And is that contact symmetrical, asymmetrical? What's the rolling point of contact at the back of your head like? If you were to roll your head from side to side gently, just what would that feel like? Is there a more comfortable angle for the head to rest? Can you be aware of the whole of your body? Can you feel bones, muscles, skin? And when I suggest that, what does that actually feel like? What is it that we feel? We're going to begin moving. So if you opted to have your legs long, it'll be better to have them bent now to join us. So bending the knees, letting the soles of the feet come to the floor. Noticing that change, right? Sometimes it's really important to notice change between one shape and the next. And we're going to begin with what's called a pelvic clock. And it's just called a pelvic clock because we're going to lift the spine, the low back off the floor. And that means our tailbone is dropping a little more deeply down. And we're going to call that 6 o'clock. And then we're going to rock the pelvis back so that the upper part of the hips are touching, and we're going to call that 12 o'clock. And we're going to go back and forth nice and easy between 6 and 12. And if it helps you, you could take an in breath at 6 or on the way to 6 and an out breath on the way to 12. So I'm just demonstrating with my hands. You don't have to do this with your hands. I'm just giving you a little visualization here, if you're watching, of the pelvis rocking forward and then the pelvis rocking back. You're welcome to close your eyes if that helps you feel into this a little bit better. Noticing you may feel a deepening of the crease at the top of the thigh at 6 o'clock and an opening of that angle at 12 o'clock. Lumbar curve makes contact with the floor at 12 o'clock. Just one or two more times, rocking back and forth, breathing in, breathing out. And yes, there's a 3 and 9, but we're actually gonna come to center. Let's do that for a moment. Let the right hip come down, and then let the left hip come down. It is a very subtle shift from right to left. So I almost think of it as like pinning the hip down into gravity and the other one rises like almost like a piston, and then the other way, dropping that hip back down into gravity. And there you have your 3 and 9, rocking right to left. The other thing this simulates is our walking gait. This little subtle articulation here of the pelvis to the waist. Little rotation. And I find it's also helpful as I drop my right hip down to put a little more push into the left foot. And then as I rock left, put a little more push into the right foot. And then let's come back to center. And I'm going to invite you now to try something, just this little rocking. So I think of it as pulling my sits bones, base of the buttocks, those hip bones, towards my heels, pulling and pushing, pulling and pushing. So it's a little motion, but it's just enough to get the whole body moving. And it's kind of like a shake, like I'm just kind of shaking stuff off. And sometimes it can be really helpful introducing novel kinds of movements, this energetic letting go, shaking out, sloughing off, releasing tension. So we're quickly activating and releasing, activating and releasing. Notice your breath, letting a breath go until finally letting it come back to stillness, letting your body come to quiet and noticing how things feel. We're going to open the arms a little further away from the body, and I just want you to try something, rolling the shoulders up and the hands all the way in, so the palms are facing, the back of your hands are facing your thighs, and then rolling out, external rotation of the upper arm bone, and the palms might roll all the way over, so now the back of the hands are also facing the thighs. So trying that a couple of times. We're going to blend a few movements here, so getting this arm motion first. So rolling in, back of the hands to the thighs, rolling open, back of the hands to the thighs. And listen, there's no obligation. If anything I ever suggest feels uncomfortable in your body, or your body, you get a clear no, listen to that clear no. There is nothing that you have to do. Always invitations. So in this instance, it makes me think like if you had shoulder issues, or I have a lot of tension in my right wrist, this can be quite challenging for me at this moment. So you might dial it down to a place where you can keep your breath steady and you can keep the motion smooth, but you're not going as far as I'm suggesting. And that's fine, right? So modulating everything so it suits you. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take an exhalation, dropping the lumbar curve or the hips to 12, right? So we got the hips going to 12, lumbar curve to the floor, arms rolling in, shoulders lifting, and a little lift of the chin. And we're going to exhale here. To inhale, we're going to release, roll the arms, release the knees wide, let the feet come together, let the tailbone go to 6 o'clock. And then come back to 12 o'clock, knees to the ceiling, arms rolling in, chin gently lifting. Blow it out. Feel the whole back pressing into the floor. Breathing in, rocking forward with the pelvis, rolling open with the arms. Chin kind of comes to neutral, and that tailbone drops down as the knees open. Let's try that a couple more times. It's a lot to manage all at once. Beauty of recorded video is you could come back to this many times and play with it if you find there's something in this experience that's interesting. Opening on the breath in. Maybe once more. Breathing out, rocking back, rolling in, knees up, rolling back, open, knees open, soles of the feet can touch, rocking the tailbone to 6. And then go ahead and let yourselves sort of relax here for a moment. Maybe that's not a relaxing proposition. You might feel like it's helpful to rock the hips back a little to 12 so the lumbar curve flattens. And then draw the knees back up to parallel. And now we're going to try a twisting side to side gesture. We're going to take it in parts, same thing. So first, just letting your head rock from side to side. If you've taken my other classes, I'm often cueing this with a breath pattern. I'm not doing that today. We're just going to let the head turn from side to side, getting into this gesture, feeling into things, noticing how the rest of the body feels, noticing sensations that got stirred up or activated in that last practice. Now I'm going to begin adding a turn of my hand. So as my head turns to the right, I'm going to let my right arm rotate so the palm is facing my face, and the left arm is going to rotate so the back of my hand is facing my thighs, just as we just did. So one side is rolling open, the other side is rolling in. And I'm looking to that open side. I'm going to come across the center, taking it the other way. And here it can be nice to actually let the latitude of your arms change. So I'm turning to look to this hand, this arm is rolling in. And back and forth a couple of times. So we're letting the spiral run down through the arm. So you might let that right arm lower as the left arm rises when you're looking left, and then let the left arm lower as it rolls in. Right arm rises as it rolls to face, the palm faces your forehead, something like that. Now, what happens if, so I'm going to the left, maybe you're with me. We let the knees fall to the right as we look to the left. Now we're getting an even longer, bigger twist. And then coming back to center and the other way. And rolling back and forth, being strong in your center, right? You may have noticed by now this is a little bit challenging, right? To bring all of you back to the middle. So you want to use the abdominals, lifting the knees, feeling the back, right? We're coordinating the upper and lower half. There are these long spirals happening everywhere, dialing up or down the concentration of the movements to a point where your body says yes, right? So this is called wash rag. And then we're going to come back. Oh, let's take it even time. Sorry, I started on that side, so I should close on this side just so we get everybody equal time. Not that that's always required, but coming back to center. Let's open the feet one more time. Open the knees one more time, letting the feet come together. A gentle rocking back so you feel like maybe you have your spine in neutral. And that might bring the knees up a little bit. Maybe you have a lot of flexibility in the thighs. Maybe your thighs are up here, and that's just fine. Again, they don't have to look like I have a lot of mobility there. It's not always helpful. So from here, let's go ahead and lengthen the legs out to the side, out away from each other, letting the arms reach overhead. So this is called star pose. And just take a moment. What's this like? Noticing the support under you from the floor, gravitational pull. What's the breath like? Is there symmetry, asymmetry in the body? How do you know that? What are the pressure points like? And then we're going to gently begin inviting the right fingertips to reach further away from center and the right toe tips to reach further away from center. And you might notice that's going to actually create a little bit of a contraction into the left side. So then you could think of drawing the left armpit towards the hip towards the armpit. And then maybe you push the left side open and the right side pulls in. just a little bit, and side to side. And your choice, you might want to do this swiftly, moving back and forth. You might want to do it really slowly, just taking your time, maybe somewhere in the middle. Noticing how this gesture is moving through center. It's almost, we're like a starfish here, emanating out from the navel, letting the limbs reach and recoil, reach and recoil. And one more time, taking that left side long, right side relaxing in, hip towards the armpit, and then coming to center, pausing for a breath. We're going to roll on to, I'm going to roll onto my left side because that means I can face you for this first round. So coming on to the left side body. I'm going to bend my knees somewhere kind of close to 90 degrees. They don't have to be perfectly at 90 degrees. I'm going to bring my bottom arm is resting on the floor. Top arm is going to come up over the top of the head. Gently cradle the head with your hand. And we're going to activate the side body here, lifting the elbow, lifting the head, squeezing that same armpit to hip gesture we just did on our backs, lowering down. Releasing that hand down to your hip. We're going to lift that foot, that top foot. Think of presenting the outside blade of that foot to the ceiling. Knee drops down, lifting up. And then gently bringing that back to center. And then we're going to put the two gestures together. We keep doing this, building the poses parts. Lifting, squeezing that side up. Lowering down. Let's take that a couple more times. I think I'm going to try breathing in here. Breathing out, activating the side body to lift. Breathing in, lowering down. Lengthening the side ribs. Breathing out, activating the side body. And lowering down. Letting the arm come down. We're going to roll onto our backs. Take a breath, take a pause. You may be feeling it down the whole side chain of the body, including the neck and shoulders. So I invite you to notice that if that's true for you. Take a moment here, allowing the body to grow heavy and soft. Back in your star pose. If that tension dissipates quickly, it's a good thing to note. If it doesn't, if you know that's an aggravating thing for you, you might come onto your side body. I'm actually going to turn my backs to you. Again, not to be rude. I never want to be rude, but sometimes it's nice when you're learning something, and particularly with this screen life we have, to see it from another angle. If you were having a lot of tension lifting and lowering the head, just leave the head down and work on the lower half. Or you might try coming up, cupping the head with your hand and see if that helps. So again, we're going to bring the cradling the head with the top arm, taking a breath in and actively lifting just the head and neck, using that side squeeze, and then lowering down, bringing the hand down to the hip, breath in, and exhale, side squeeze. Outside blade of the foot lifting, little internal rotation of that thigh. And then coming down. And then we're going to take the gesture top and bottom together, cradling the head, breathing in, breathing out, lifting up. Breathing in, lower down, lengthening through the trunk. Breathing out, lifting up. Breathing down, in and down. Breathing out and up. And come on down. This time, we're going to roll onto the belly. Coming over onto the abdomen. You might have to recenter yourself. Reaching the arms overhead, letting the forehead rest, letting the feet rest. Taking a few moments here, I'm going to lift my head just so you can be sure to hear me, but I would be demonstrating with my head down. So taking this time, this is like star pose, but now we're on the belly. There may be a number of things you're perceiving. You may be feeling tension in the shoulders, in which case you might want to bend your elbows, let them soften by your side, maybe try them open wider by your side, right? So it's really worth exploring, doing some self-research here around where those shoulders find ease. And if they come overhead, great. Taking two more breaths here. And I'm going to also encourage you to notice, can you breathe into your back ribs from this position? And now we're going to take an active practice here. So to get active, I'm going to think of sending my lower ribs towards the top of my hips. Sometimes it can help to imagine you're the queen and you have a cough. And there's a way in which that gentle cough allows us to activate the front of the abdomen in such a way as to then reach back through the toes, reach up and out through the crown of the head, lifting the arms and legs if that feels skillful. So then suddenly Superman pose becomes an animated lifting practice. Pausing here for a breath, lowering down. We might try breathing in at the bottom, breathing in. On the out breath, activating, reaching back. The whole body is participating, lifting up. One more time, breathing in and down. Breathing out and up. Bringing the hands down under the shoulders, so bending the elbows back by your side, tucking the toes. We're going to press up and back to child's pose. You choose always where you'd like your arms in child's pose. Might be stacking the fists, might be forehead on the floor, arms by your side, it might be arms overhead. Any configuration that suits you, and just taking a moment to rest, notice, feeling into back body breathing. I like bringing my elbows directly in front of my knees and giving a little push that helps to generate some more feeling sensation of spaciousness in the back ribs here. Broadening and breathing, noticing if that's helpful to you. And finally coming up to hands and knees. Taking a moment, feeling the spine coming into neutral with all its natural curves. So there's the back of the head, back of the neck, back of the thoracic chest cavity, lumbar curve with that little kitten. A little kitten might nest or settle in to the small of your back, and then the tailbone. So there's actually lots of curves, and it can be interesting to play around with feeling into all that curviness. Pushing into the hands. So my hands are about shoulder width apart. knees under the hips. And I'm just going to take a little rocking back and forth. We started earlier with our pelvic clocks and a gentle rocking. Do you remember that? Where we pulled and pushed the hips towards the heels. Now we're in a new relationship to gravity, but there's a similar quality of pulling back. It's a bigger movement, right? But you could kind of begin to feel a little bit of the rebound, and you can play with tucking your toes, sinking further back, maybe going further forward, pushing and pulling, connecting to the feeling in your hands as you push back, maybe even lifting the palms, pulling yourself forward, pushing. You might even want to push, tuck the toes under, lift the knees. Feel the whole body contracting to lift. That's a powerful gesture. All of a sudden, maybe bending into it, pushing forward, letting the knees come down, releasing. So I invite you to experiment a little bit here with finding the power in your body, your shoulders. You might find you want to come towards a plank. Push back towards a down dog if that's a place you've been before. Coming to plank, knees down, back to child's pose. Forward to table, to plank, down dog, plank. So noticing if somewhere along that journey feels interesting. Noticing how we're tying spirals and twisting and activations together, suddenly waking up the body. Finally, when you feel ready, walking the hands back, letting the hips drop. If squatting is an option, great. If that's not an option, that's fine too. You could be back with your weight in your heels, pressing into the hands to come up. If you do find squat is accessible, you could push up from a squat. And maybe a little shakeout. I've got my head cut off. I'm just gonna I'm gonna sink back here to say goodbye in a moment, right? But just shaking it out, let it go. Thank you for joining me for this restore and reconnect practice. I hope you found it helpful, and I look forward to joining you here again. Thank you for filling your cup so that you can fill the cups of others.